right. Here's how it's gonna go. Our next speaker needs no introduction. She's been making friends everywhere she goes, barnstorming our state, teaching us all about the critical importance of agriculture and our role in it. After all, as she says, we're all wearing clothes and we're all eating food. However, for those of you who don't know Kim, let me tell you a little bit more about her. Kim Olson has served this country for 25 years, rising to the rank of colonel in the US Air Force. She was among the first generation of women pilots in the military, and she later volunteered with the Texas State Guard as the director of HR and IT. Kim is also a fourth-generation farmer. On her own family farm in Palo Pinto County, Kim utilizes sustainable practices as she raises fruits and vegetables, keeps bees, and restores native grasses. Kim has become a personal hero to me and so many other Texas women as she talks not only about the blue wave, but about the pink tsunami that's going to happen this fall when Texas women rise up and make change. And today, we have a very special award to present. Blue Action Democrats are so inspired by Kim Olson and her passion for making positive change in Texas that today we want to recognize her work. Kim, could you please come join me up here? Blue Action Democrats is proud to present the first annual Hold My Kim Olson. I want to introduce you to the next Texas Commissioner of Agriculture, Kim Olson.
Oh, I like that. Okay, pilots aren't known to be the smartest tools in the box here, and I know I'm between you and your second round of drinks, so here's how it's gonna go, Cindy. I'm gonna tell you 3 stories, because no self-respecting pilot gets an audience and a microphone without getting a there I was. So you good with that? All right, so there I was on the campaign trail. Now, I, like a lot of my brothers and sisters who are running, have been at this for a while. For me now, it's been 16 months. I visited 170 counties in this great state, and I'm trying to do all 254, chasing Beto across the way there. And one afternoon, I found myself in Glasscock County. Anybody ever heard of it? 1,000 Republicans and 200 Democrats on a good day. And I told the guy that invited me up there, look, I'll come, but you got to get me in front of cotton farmers. I need to hear from them what their issues are. So my hubby and I pulled up to this cotton gin, and sure enough, it was raining, so God was on my side that day. And all the old boys were sitting there, and they're drinking coffee in this big old table, and the guy that invited me introduces me, and I sit down, and 2 of the old boys get up and leave. I said, that's all right. I worked with all men. I'm used to being in combat all the time. So I sat down with them, and I said, gentlemen, tell me what's on your mind. Click, click. Click, click. You could have heard the dust in the room. And I said, let me ask it another way. How better could the Department of Agriculture serve you? 2 hours later, and I'm writing notes. And of course, I'd studied cotton. Mama didn't raise a fool. I knew what the futures were. I knew how much tonnage they got per acre. I knew what the commodity prices were. I knew the names of all the cotton, all the equipment, and I started to get a little cocky towards the end of the speech, or the end of the discussion. And I said, all right, gentlemen, right before those pickers go in the field and you pick those cotton, you exfoliate the cotton, right, to get a clean sweep so that you get a better rating on your cotton and you get more money per tonnage. You know, boys go, yeah, that's right. So as I go to get up and leave, and of course the 2 old boys that had left came back because I couldn't stand not be involved, and one turns to the other and he says, you know, she's all right. And my head got all big, and my husband had to open both doors to let me out. And I got in the car and I clicked my seatbelt and looked over at my man of 33 years and I said, how do you like me so far? And he pats me lovingly on the shoulder and he says, baby, you did a pretty good job, but I'm pretty sure they don't exfoliate cotton, they defoliage it. I went, I was so close. I got 3 votes out of Glasscock County in the primary. I tell that story because the only way we're going to make a difference is you got to go to them. You got to walk their fields, you got to visit their farms, you got to sit at their family dinner tables, because the last time I checked, representative government was going out and listening to the people and then representing them in Austin and up in D.C., not the other way around. So that's your first story. And here comes the second one. You know, I've been asked this a couple times as I get interviewed, what's a nice girl like you doing running for office? And I'm sure some of you have heard that too, right? You've served your country already, Joseph. You've done your time. Why on earth would you put yourself out there? Well, there's three big reasons why I'm running for office, and I'll skip the first and the last, but I'm going to tell you the middle reason. Because my son and his young wife came to me last year and they said, Mama, we got some news for you. Oh yeah, in Kim's fantasy world, it was gonna be a girl. And I was gonna knit her a pink hat, and we were gonna march about anything and everything, because I was gonna be Grandma of the Year, right? But instead, my son said, Mom, I'm gonna follow in you and Dad's footsteps. I'm gonna join the United States Air Force. So I got my uniform on, it still fits. I told him, I said, you raise your right hand and you repeat after me. You are to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. There you go. So now I got skin in the game. I just gave this nation one of my most precious resources, which is my one and only son. Now you're sitting there going, well, what does the Department of Ag have to do with the military? Not a lot. But Joseph does, and Julie does, and Beto does. And what I'm asking you is if in my work of traveling around this country, traveling around their respective districts, gets them in office, then I have done a good job. Because you have my child, and we need reasonable people, reasonable leaders to decide what to do with this nation's most precious resources, which are her sons and daughters that wear this uniform. And I share that with the 1.2 million other families who have their kids right now. And oh, by the way, my son is going to Afghanistan in January. So you will be elected by then and sworn in. So that's a good thing. So the third reason I'm running, well, because like most of you sitting around this room, girls, I am mad as hell and I am not going to take it anymore. But it is not enough to be mad. But let me just tell you about these midterms. It ain't a midterm. This is a turning point in our nation's history. We have women running in record numbers up and down the ballot, and Texas has the most women running of any state in the union. We are pivotal. And we have incredible surge capacity, because in 2014, with 2 women at the top of the ticket, 70% of the registered Democratic women in this state did not vote. They didn't earn it, we gave it to them, and we're going to take it back in 2018. Full stop. So let me leave you with this last story, because I think it's pretty poignant about what you're going to do, because this is your call to action. It's 2008. There's an Army helicopter flying, and she takes a shot, and down the helicopter goes, and she's trapped. Everyone in her crew perishes, and they send in the troops to cut her out of her helicopter under enemy fire. And as they're trying to rescue her, do you think for a New York minute she was thinking about the gender of her rescuers? Or whether they were gay, or whether they were transgender, or the color of their skin? Hell no. All she wanted to do was get out of enemy fire and get home to see her family. Let me guarantee you the United States military was just fine when we integrated it. It was just fine when women got to go into combat, and it's just fine when gays surge openly, and it's going to be just fine if we let transgenders serve, because we need the best. And I don't feel very strongly about this at all. Well, and cut her out of the helicopter they did. And at that time during the war, we didn't have a hospital in Germany, so they put you to sleep, got you in a medevac, and about 18 hours later, you would wake up at Army Medical Center, Army Reed Medical Center, Walter Reed Medical Center. And wake up she did. And she knew then something was very wrong. And she had lost both her legs. And she looks up at the big Army clock, those expensive ones with the black and white hands. And this voice pops up. We all got them, girls, that voice in the back of our heads. What will you do now? You will never fly. What difference can you make? You won't be able to serve again. Let's just check out. And those of you that have been around, folks that have made that transition, know they can do that. But the other voice popped up and said, let's just give it 5 more seconds. And 5 seconds ticked on the clock. And just then an enlisted troop came in, because those of us that are officers know the enlisted really run the military. They just let us think we do. And she said, ma'am, can I talk to you? And Tammy says, well, I'm laying here with no legs. I got pretty much all the time in the world. Talk away. She said, well, ma'am, it's your hair. I said, what? She goes, it's pretty nasty. You mind if I wash it? So the sergeant swung around to the top of the gurney, unbraided her hair, washed it, conditioned it, re-rinsed it, French braided it back up. Don't ask men, there's no explanation required. Pinned it, stood up, put her hand on his shoulder, and she said, I'll come back when I got more time. And the sergeant left. And the voice said, look up. And an hour had gone by on the clock. And live she did. Because the woman on the gurney is Tammy Duckworth, who would run for Congress and lose the first time. Then she would run again and she would win. And then that was enough. She ran for senator and soundly beat the guy by 65%. And that would be an incredible story. But at the age of 42, she had her second child and brought that baby on the floor of the Senate for the first time in this nation's history. Now I'm going to ask you something. In that story, which one of those women are the most powerful? And which one are you? And I would offer there are days you're going to be the hair washer. You're going to enable somebody to do something they couldn't have done had you not walked in that room, or knocked that door, or registered that voter, or got someone who didn't look like you, think like you, sound like you to the polls. No one goes to the polls by themselves in 2018. This is not the prom, no, right? Or are you the woman or the man that stands up on war-weary legs and speaks out about an injustice? Do you tremble under the pressure of what it takes to run for office, to support those of us that are running? Do you stand up against the oppression and the things that we're seeing that said, oh, hell no, not on my watch, comrade, not on my watch? That's what we're doing running for office in 2018. And just like Cindy said, I'm going to be your next Texas Commissioner of Agriculture, and I'm going to represent all Texans, because we all eat, you're all wearing clothes, and it ain't a red issue, and it ain't a blue issue. Feeding us is a red, white, and blue issue. I'm trail.